Hi, my name's Tara Preston, and welcome to the Radiant Midlife podcast. I'm here today to talk about cultivating the feminine wealth frequency in midlife for more glow, more flow, and divine abundance. So, if you're here, you most likely understand that midlife is a pivotal portal of reclamation, of life reinvention, and of recalibration into more of your evolution. I certainly believe that. I've been working with women for well over 16 years in the space of divine feminine empowerment globally. And I've been fortunate enough to work with women through this very pivotal time. If we're able to grab a hold of the energy present, we can really use it as a catalyst for stepping into more. However, at a foundation level, at a body level, a lot of women start to feel a sense of depletion, maybe a dullness in their life, something maybe feeling like it's missing. And this is where we actually need to come back into our body, right? In midlife, wealth, glow, and leadership, it has to live in the body. And I want to speak to that a little bit today because for so many of us, and even for myself, who I've been doing a lot of work in devotion to the feminine, listening and honoring my body, even when midlife hit, it was very clear that my body foundation needed an upgrade. I had to start to listen to her, to attune to her, and to partner with her in really new and different ways if I wanted to continue to create and lead from the power of my feminine. And what that actually meant for myself is going deeper into womb work to stabilize the foundation of it all. So much of our creative power, right, as women actually rests in the foundation of the womb as a way to anchor our power. When we're able to do this, it actually allows us to create, do, manifest, and lead with an entirely different muscle. However, we've spent most of our life, right, overriding our feminine cycles, overriding our feminine system. And we've been conditioned to disconnect from a deeper part of us that actually really desires rhythm and flow and sustenance and nourishment. When we can actually recalibrate back to that, we start to work out and grow the foundation of a feminine muscle of creation and power. And it actually allows us to get our glow back, get our flow back, and to create prosperity from a totally different muscle. And so I want to really speak to that today. Wealth is often a sense of its consciousness, but it's also an embodiment and deeply for women, again, connected to the womb. Glow is really that sense of vitality and radiance. For me and for many women, it comes from stagnation in the pelvic bowl, and it can often come from nutrient depletion that often impacts a woman as well. And a lot of Tiona talk about a couple different practical pieces in terms of what it means to really get our glow back. But those are some key pieces that I want to talk about as well. Abundance for women, ultimately, especially if we've been moving through our life for a long time, holding it all together, pushing and really holding the organization and the structural aspect of our life from a more masculine way of being creates a lot of energetic depletion. Our vitality comes from the nourishment of our feminine, being able to hold more and more feminine energy. And midlife, because our body's already undergoing a metamorphosis energetically, hormonally, emotionally, at the level of our bodies, physically, it's the perfect time to recalibrate and bring our systems into a deeper space of harmony to really allow for this beautiful frequency and way of creative power to land. And this is especially true if you're a woman who feels like you're on the edge of a pivot, right? There is a new way that you are being called forward. There is a new vision that you are being called into. Midlife becomes the portal, and the foundation becomes absolutely necessary. So, again, I was talking about why this depletion even happens. And for a lot of women, we've been conditioned to override our feminine system, to really hold a lot, even our families, from that more masculine, energetic, logic, strategic, organizational mind. And it really creates a sense of depletion, almost frazzling the nervous system to a degree and depleting the feminine nervous system. So a lot of women reach midlife and they feel a sense of of depletion. Even if their level of self-care, which a lot of women who come to me, even if they feel a sense of depletion and their self-care is really on point, this actually speaks to a capacity that's been drained. The water in the well is quite low, right? There's a sense of nourishment and depletion, and it's been happening for many years. So, part of rebuilding this vitality glow, this radiance coming back into our wealth frequency, is by focusing on nourishment, right? Is really by focusing on how do we rebuild depletion? And I'm going to mention a few things here at the end of the podcast as well. A big part of overriding our feminine system comes from chronic overgiving. So, even as somebody who has cultivated community and been working in this field for a long time, space of feminine leadership, there has been that imbalance of overgiving and self honoring. And so, it's really making that invitation. Sorry, there's some background noise here. Really making that invitation to bring things back into balance. Depletion is one of the signs that things are out of balance in that aspect. Nervous system overload as well. I work with a lot of leaders and visionaries who have teams, who have communities, and they hold a lot for their families, they hold a lot for their teams, they hold a lot for their communities. And so there's this sense of where can you let go of what's not yours, right? Where can you start to manage and lead from a place of regulation, yes, but also by identifying where you're caretaking or holding on to more than you need to be. I want to speak to also this, in essence, this living from obligation instead of truth, which is a core theme that I often see for women and something that we've been conditioned to do. A lot of society has been conditioned to do this, but for women in particular, there's this sense of obligation and continuous overriding of truth. So, of course, if we want to bring our systems back into vitality and back into overflow, right, and really get that glow back, that Shakti essence, then we have to really acknowledge where we've been working out of obligation rather than self honoring, rather than listening to a deeper truth of what really works for you. What are you really ready to let go of? What's no longer suiting you? Where are you tired of performing, right? Where are you tired of overreaching or overgiving in certain relationships or relationship dynamics? So these things all often come into play when we're really looking at how do we upgrade this feminine wealth frequency at a very foundational level as we step through and into this midlife recalibration. And truly, when we stop listening to the body, this is a core piece often that I'm supporting women in, is listening and honoring to. Listening to the body, honoring the body, right? When we start to disconnect, which we have done for many women, overriding the feminine system for decades, we've not been taught to listen. So when we can actually stop and slow down and begin to cultivate spaciousness to listen and to honor, right, we start to feed and nourish our body foundations in an entirely new way. We start to move from that disconnect, that depletion, and into a space of nourishment, vitality. We're starting to get that glow back. We're starting to prioritize our needs, our truth, our want, right? And at a foundational level, our nourishment. So I want to just talk about a few pieces that I often will weave in. And I think, first of all, I want to speak to creating sacred space is often a key piece. And some women, especially some leaders who are very busy, don't really even know what to do with spaciousness, right? And I think that first and foremost, just starting to cultivate, even if it's 10 or 20 minutes in the morning, to just recenter, to breathe, to move, and to listen. Sometimes listening is actually more about listening to the more vulnerable, afraid part of ourselves, right? But giving that self space to breathe, to hear that part of yourself becomes really important. And as you do that, you start to unearth deeper layers of needs, right? You start to hear a deeper layer of truth. And so cultivating safe and sacred space by lighting a candle, maybe just having soft music playing and just being able to listen becomes really important. I really love to include movement, breath work and movement, slow circular hip movements, stretching, slow, soft breathing, just letting the body relax, release, and move in a way that feels really soothing. It can be just gentle rocking or stretching, circular motions. These all feel really good to the system. And that brings me into this place of wanting to speak to restoring flow. That becomes important when we're talking about getting this glow, flow, divine abundance, right? Restoring flow, which actually addresses another layer of stagnation in the body. Where can you clear out stagnation? For women in our 40s, our liver is one organ that absolutely needs to be tended to. It tends to be an organ where there's sluggishness, especially in midlife, and lymph support. There's actually three key places that I find stagnation can set in for women that really can create a sense of dullness in the system, which is the liver, the lymph system, and the pelvic bowl. So for the liver, there's so many ways to do gentle liver cleanses. For me, I really had to shift my diet. I took caffeine out. I really minimized alcohol intake. And I actually started working with schisandra berry, became one of my key herbal allies, which is a beautiful berry that's often spoke of with high regard in traditional Chinese medicine. And it's a five, I think they call it a 5-point berry because it covers the full range of the power of a herb, which is that it has, I hope I get this right, but schisandra berry is a little bit sweet, a little bit sour, and it has one other note to it. And so basically, it's called the beauty berry because when you take schisandra berry, it has so many healing effects on the body. One healing effect is that it's really beautiful at moving excess estrogen out of the body, but helping to clear and support the liver and its overall function. I found schisandra berry to be a beautiful ally. Lymport, if you're not exercising, then doing some type of daily, there's the daily 5, you can Google that, or doing some type of just gentle lymph support is beautiful to start to move out sluggishness and just toxins that are sitting in the body that haven't been able to move out of the system. The pelvic bowl is so huge. As women, we hold a lot of our radiance, a lot of our glow, our vitality, and our flow in the pelvic bowl. And again, when we're talking about the feminine wealth frequency, it is about anchoring it in through the foundation of the womb space. So glow, flow, divine abundance. One of the most beautiful practices that I highly recommend is a yoni steaming practice, which is well over 3,000 years old. There's evidence and teachings of it found throughout Asia, and it is using steam and specific herbs. And if this is something that you want to learn more about, you can Google it. I would be cautious and find someone who knows a little bit about this process, especially if you're having reproductive health issues. But there's really gentle ways using rose, chamomile, nettle, lavender, herbal blend, and steam. And the steam nanoparticles from the herbs can go up and into the womb space, clearing out stagnation, healing, really helps beautifully with centering into the womb space and healing the mother wound as well. So that's one of my other favorite practices. And if you want more information about this, absolutely reach out. You can find me over on Facebook or just email me through the link on my website. When it comes to glow, flow, and divine abundance, when we're talking about anchoring into the feminine wealth frequency, we want to get that Shakti flow going. So creative practices, but also Shakti movement. So I was talking about gentle stretching and movement, but hip circles can be really beautiful, either on all fours, breathing into the womb space, circulating the hips, or standing up or in goddess pose can be really beautiful and helpful as well. Pleasure is another aspect, and I like to include pleasure in whole food eating, nutrient dense whole foods. For myself coming into midlife, I needed to upgrade my diet. I needed to heal inflammation. I needed to really take down cortisol in my body. And I needed to really watch my insulin. This is a common piece for a lot of women. And it'll show up as a little bit of weight gain, sluggishness, feeling tired, or inflammation. So nutrient dense foods for me meant, and eliminating a lot of the white foods for me, which easily convert to sugar. So I cleared out a lot of rice, potatoes, French fries, chips, that was really high sugar. And I started to come back to very nutrient dense whole foods diet that actually also included like a lot of, for me, leafy greens, but in particular sprouts, microgreens, sprouts, microgreens in particular, really, because just young sprouts, microgreens, they have a lot of like vital energy, like adolescent energy. Sprouts are a little bit different than microgreens, but they have a lot of that like vital energy. So when you consume them, they give radiance, they give a glow to your system. But in particular, taking down inflammation, lowering your sugar intake, and coming back to really nutrient dense whole foods, whole grains, lots of leafy greens. I personally, my body loves them. A lot cruciferous vegetables for your liver really made a huge difference in rebuilding my foundation and also remineralizing my foundation. I started to work with a lot of herbs, a lot of herbal teas when I was, for several years ago now, feeling that sense of depletion. It became, it's, to like preparing for the next stage of your evolution. What is the body asking for? What do you need? And especially if you're called to anchor into more power, which I believe midlife is that pivotal transition. We anchor well through the womb as we step into our power. We've been overriding the cyclical nature, the intelligence, and the codes of prosperity that exist in our womb for decades. So, to bring our foundation back at the level of the body, at the level of the womb, anchoring in a new frequency of feminine wealth to support your midlife evolution, we need to get a couple of these key pieces right in preparation for what it is that we are going to be called into for this second half of life, which ultimately is your power years. They are your power years. Midlife is not a decline, it is really the next evolution of your sacred feminine power. One final tip that I wanted to bring forward is releasing the old emotional and identity clutter. When I'm initially working with the women, and often when women come see me, they'll feel a little heavy, a little dull, right? They want to get that glow, that flow, and they really want to anchor in that wealth frequency. It's always met by, how clear and release the old. That can be connected to, an old identity, old emotions, grief that need to be cleared out in the home, clutter in the kitchen, right? To make space for some of these nourishment upgrades. So that is my invitation to just take some time to really sit with, where in your life, what are you ready to let go of that maybe you've been procrastinating on or avoiding? This is the time, right? To sit with that, to process that, to journal it, to dance it, to move it out. To a big part of my work is Akashic record work, right? To really start to unpack some of the deeper layers of what is sitting below the surface hasn't been acknowledged, that needs to be processed, released, and acknowledged for a sense of lightness and movement forward, while really starting to understand what parts of yourself are you ready to shed and let go of. They're not working for you anymore. It's feeling clunky. And who are you ready to step into? So I will leave you with that. And that is the beautiful question of, who are you ready to step into? Who are you being called to be? How does she feel? How does she move through the world? How does she anchor into her power? Start to tune into that. And from there, start to play around with a few of these steps and pieces that I've given you, so that you can start to anchor into your feminine wealth frequency as well. Really coming back home to the glow, that flow, and to divine abundance, which naturally flows through you and your experience as you anchor this frequency in through the foundation of your womb and your body. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.